Chapter 22. In the morning, I let myself into Rayner's room. He looked up. "You're back," he said in Sophrender, sounding surprised. "I'll come back every day." I sat down. After a few minutes, he said, "You do not have school? Sophrenders do not go to school?" "We go to school." I couldn't say why I didn't go to school, because I couldn't explain where we were. He looked at me suspiciously. "It is morning time," he said, nodding up toward the small window high in the wall that let him see the sky. No black curtain. He didn't have a candle or flashlight, so he couldn't make any light that would need to be blacked out. He spent every night in the dark, hours and hours of it. Morning time is when little children go to school, no? I shrugged. He thought I was just a little child. We were done talking. Lunch seemed oddly quiet. I looked around. "Where's Tommy?" "He got moved," Kaylan said. "Moved? To a different house? Were there other houses like Fader?" "Downstairs. He turned 15, and he's brilliant." "Wow," I managed. "He would do such a good job, and he wouldn't be sent to the front lines. He would get to stay here under steel and concrete, safe." But I pictured him running and playing outside. The grown-ups didn't have playtime. And Evie twisted her fork around on her plate instead of eating, which I realized was what I had been doing. I took a few bites of our beans on toast. Some of the boys seemed almost cheerful. Maybe they liked knowing that they'd be able to move downstairs later. Maybe some of them were hoping to become the top kid like Tommy had been. A few seemed down, but not like a Nevy. After lunch, I didn't go back to the soldier. I didn't see the point. I milled about the living room with everyone else, watching Frederica read Gunnar. Frederica read and Gunnar determine whether his family might be bombed. Brid and Kailan find their patterns, and Hamlin paced between the tables, giving orders, as Tommy had been doing only yesterday, and the Nevy shift her ships more slowly than usual. As soon as we got outside, Tissiatag started up. A Nevy ran with the others, but she didn't try to tackle anyone. I stayed behind her, so she couldn't see me. And then I ran at her, launching myself up onto her shoulders and throwing her all the way to the ground, landing on top of her. I untied and stole her sea-colored armband. The breath knocked out of her. She rolled over to see who had brought her down. She looked surprised to see me. She saw her stolen armband dangling before her eyes and took in the tiger stripes on my own arm. Would she get angry, or would she play along? She let out a shriek and pushed me off of her. She scrambled to her feet and launched herself at me as I ran away. She would play. The next day I went back to the cell, a prisoner cell for a prisoner, with a small section for me. I was a prisoner too. After 3 days, I really should have had something to tell the examiner. She had pulled me aside, but I had almost nothing to say. Mostly I was tired of sitting in someone's presence, not talking. On the 4th day of sitting and staring at the wall, boredom was about to drive me crazy. At least I got to leave the terrible little room. Rayner had to stay there all the time. But the bomb streets back home, that terrible wailing, he deserved it. He could sit here forever and rot as far as I was concerned. Staring at him, with his cold, unfeeling manner, I didn't blame a Nevy for not minding if they blew up the ships she found. But still, the silence wore on me, and I couldn't understand why it wasn't bothering him too. I asked, "Where do you come from?" I asked, "How old are you? Do you have a family? Did you go to school? What do you eat? Where you're from? Is it cold there? What's your favorite season? What's your favorite color?" Nothing. At Tissiatag, Hamlin tackled me and stole my armband. The next day, a Nevy snatched my armband without even needing to tackle me. The day after that, Frederica, who never plays, got my band. Whichever side I was on was guaranteed to lose. "How's it going?" the examiner asked for the 10th time. Her office was another place I wished I spent less time, though it was really only a few minutes a day. I wanted to say fine, but I couldn't. "Nothing's happening." "That's all right. Just try again tomorrow." But what would be different? How did we get Raynor? I had figured out that Raynor must have been brought here on the day of our outing. The examiner paused, deciding whether to tell me. Eventually she said, Raynor was captured in the mountains, on our side of the border. 9 others were with him. Where are the others? They didn't make it. Oh. Even if it sounded like you were lucky, it felt awful to be the only one to make it. Like it hurt Kailan to have been the only one to get better from the flu, and it hurt me to be the only one to leave Lik-a-Lig. Does Raynor know? He does. So we killed the rest of them? Not necessarily. The Tissians don't view it as honorable to be captured. They would rather die than be prisoners, than risk talking about their country's secrets. I can't get him to tell me anything. I didn't want to say she'd made a mistake again, but she seemed to be waiting for me to talk. I took a deep breath. Father said to help end the war and come home. Everyone else is helping. They find ships and defend cities. I can't do anything at all. Maybe that's why you gave me this job. You didn't want to waste anybody else on something impossible. I sat stiffly in the chair in front of her desk, but she seemed at ease on the other side. After a few silent moments, she spoke. Tell me, what did a Nevi bring from home? What? What did a Nevi bring from home? She never told me. Think. You each brought something special from home. What would you guess a Nevi brought? I thought about a Nevi's competitiveness, how she wanted to move right on to the next assignment after finishing one, how much she concentrated, how she usually played tag as if it was as serious as her job. Maybe a little medal for something she did well at, like a prize from school? And Kailan, what do you think she brought? Kailan, whose parents and brothers were gone, who wondered if there were untold reasons she had to be sent away. A photo of her family, if she had one. What did our prisoner bring from home? Nothing. He wasn't allowed to keep anything. Wrong. Find out what he brought from home. I must have looked puzzled because she said, I think it will go best if you just be yourself. What did she mean? I'd already asked him everything I could think of. How about Gunnar? What did Gunnar bring from home? My answer stuck in my throat because I was about to say that Gunnar brought his heart from home. The examiner smiled at me. You're dismissed for today. On the next day of silence, I stood to leave. I paused before exiting. Despite being so angry at him for what his country had done, for remaining silent while I sat with him day after day, I thought about how it felt to be the only one, to be left behind. I thought about how I'd helped a Nevi by showing her that I could play too. Gunnar by admitting I worried too, by offering myself. I said, I like green. And then, on the day after that, when I got up to leave, I heard behind me, I like blue.